G'day everyone, my name is Noah and you're watching TJM Farming here on YouTube. Start of this video, well, I wasn't expecting to film today because we've literally got nothing much on the agenda in the way of materials. Well, I just got a phone call. They're coming out to deliver some fencing materials for us today, and that's all the 11 kilometers of boundary fencing that the insurance is paying for. I need to go over to fetch the tractor, get it unhooked from the air compressor and have it ready, because they're going to be coming on the truck to unload all of the strainer posts, all of the ring lock, all of the star pickets. Now, since the last time I discussed the fencing situation, that would have been in the video before we tackled trying to blow down the header. Well, Johnny Header Mark II is still partially blown down. I have gone up into the grain tank and swept through all the dust and got it out of there. You can see there's a little bit of grain beneath the concaves here and in the sieves back there. My plan was to finish blowing down the header today and get it parked up, and so we could take the batteries out to put in the dozer and get started on that project. However, the Ingersoll Rand, the battery needs charging on this again. So if I try to start it like so with that little key there, absolutely nothing. And if you look at the battery right there, it's black, that tells us it needs charging. So we need the big battery charger to get the air compressor going. And that's going to be a problem because, well, we've been having car issues lately. So the D-Max has gone off to be repaired at the mechanics, and Dad put the big battery pack that we used to get this going the last time you saw this thing. He put that in the D-Max because the D-Max batteries also need charging, because long story short, it's gone off to be fixed and it's taken the battery with it. Now, while we're waiting for the truck to turn up, let me just give like a proper update on what's to go with the fencing. I know I put out a request with help from you guys on sourcing some fencing materials. We did get some offers for some second-hand material, thanks to those guys who reached out to us. We greatly appreciate it. I was trying to get it organised, but Dad had other ideas, and he said instead of trying to muck around trying to source the extra fencing material for the 24 kilometers total, that's the 11 kilometers of boundary fence that needs replacing, plus all the interior fences at the west end, he figured it'd be better off just using the insurance money to cover what we're insured for. That's the boundary fence at minimum. And because most of the interior fences are in a somewhat reasonable state at the moment anyway, if they decide that they're going to rust and crumble and fall to bits in the wintertime, we'll just use any leftovers or whatnot that we've got over there, like the second-hand rolls and stuff. Use what we've got that we can use to patch up, basically. It's not exactly the route I wanted to go. I was really hoping for one of those things where we could completely redesign the paddocks, but by the looks, it's just not gonna happen this year. Maybe next year, or whenever the racetrack gets flattened. We'll wait and see. We have got the fencing materials coming, and well, we're gonna get a lot of manpower coming out to help us in a couple of weeks' time as well. Like I said, I mentioned in the other video, Blazer are coming out to help us. They will be. They haven't forgot about us. They're just busy like they always are, because at the end of the day, they are a non-for-profit volunteer organisation helping farmers all across Australia recover from fires, floods, etc., where fence lines are concerned. They're preoccupied down south at the moment with the buoying up and the other fires out in the wheat belt and stuff, where they've got some extra calls, and they'll be coming up to us on the way up to Warradaji as like a satellite camp. Well, hopefully we might be able to make some videos out of that, showing you fencing with just myself and Dad, which we've already done in the past on this channel, and what it looks like with a great big volunteer team, which is going to be fantastic. Good morning and welcome to March. Yeah, I know, This year is marching on really quick and we need to keep marching with it. Not a lot happened in the second half of February farm-wise because, well, I've started my new off-farm job and Dad's been continuing with his. So we've been pretty busy over the past couple of weeks trying to earn some money off-farm before things get hectic around here in the preparation for seeding and everything. Okay, so in the roller saga, well, as you can see, we've got the roller behind the tractor here. We brought them both home last night. Literally all it needed to get out of the bog was a small tap from the loader. So we got the roller behind the tractor here. I would unhook it and take the tractor over to the combine because we do need to lift the combine up today and try and put some of these points we found from the other shed on, because when we get this oat seed delivered, that's going to be our cover crop to try and get the pasture growing out the paddock again. Dad actually said to me, before you go unhook it, let's see what the roller can do in these two paddocks behind where we had our hay crop last year. And so, well, this gives me a good opportunity to practice with the GPS, because we're going to need to make sure the auto steer's up and running again, like I say, because we need it for the sprayer and also running for the combine as well. And this year we're actually going to be doing some tandem seeding. And what I mean by that is my neighbour Peter, who you may have spotted us helping him in a couple of videos in the past with our hay baling. This year he's putting a different variety of oats in, that the 511, which he is planning to get up and going again this year, the 511 can't get the seed rate up all the way. And the 511, I think, can only do about 80 kilos a hectare, and our combine, the 753, can only do up to 100 kilos per hectare. That's with the current seed meter roller cog that it's got on the shaft at the moment. There are custom shafts you can get available that I do know that AgriParts make them in Welshpool. They need to be a custom order though, and I haven't gotten them in contact with them about that just yet this year. But we've got the measuring tape. First of all, what we're going to do is, well, we're going to get the measuring tape out and see if we can this roller measured. 2.88 meters for the roller drum here. So this is basically a 3 meter implement. I'm going to round it up. Let's grab the water bottle, let's fire the Johnny up, and let's do our first day of field work for the year. Right, so I've been just mucking about with this a little bit. Okay, it still thinks it's on the gold acres. I'm not sure. We'll go whacker and see range. We'll go drive it to the paddock and we'll start creating a course and see what it does. The whole point of today's exercise is to try and get me to practice with the auto steer and see if this actually pushes some rocks down. See if I figure it out. Because if I can figure it out, that's excellent. I think for starters, we'll just come up and over here, bring it back down to idle there, and we want to go... Bindy, get out of the way! Get out of the way, dog. We want to try and go...
The following is a brief, in a nutshell, what it's been like to work with the FM-750 for the past 3 years, montage.
Scroll down and find it. If I can get that to select then. Give us a moment. Okay. Moment, favor accuracy. It is an older screen, so try this again, and it still is not liking this. No, I don't want GNSS. Get out of there. Alright, so I've been mucking around with the settings a little bit. We're trying to convince it that it's doing tillage. Let's see if it does anything. If I can get it out of the screen. Boundary start. Let's try that and see if it does anything.
As you can probably tell, it didn't do anything for the GPS. The roller, however, we did have a little bit of success with that. Let's go have a look.
Right, let's see what it does over the big furrows. It's doing something. Oh well. Roller seems to be pushing some of the rocks down. It's mainly the fire brakes on the outside edge. They've got to be pushed down. Then we can start rolling the interior part there. And there's some big rocks. Those are going to be fun to watch next lap. Does a decent job stubble crushing too. Gotta give it that. May not be a proper mulcher, but it's doing something. Now the big reason why I wanted to use auto steer for this is because, well, the implement's so small, and because the tractor kind of overlaps with the duals a bit, it's hard to tell where I've actually been. I mean, I could tell a little bit there. Yeah, that's ever so slightly annoying. Oh well, no matter. Right, so we've been going for goodness knows how long. It's nearly 10 o'clock. I've done a couple of laps around with the roller, nearly got it bogged again, but thankfully the tractor was able to dig itself out. And the auto steer is still searching for satellites. Dad reckons it takes about 15 to 25 minutes. I've been trying to troubleshoot with him because I've got to work out how to get. I think this right here, this is the isolation switch. So on the control panel for the CV810 here, you got the flash top of the range power shift here with the 4-speed forwards, 4-speed reverse, and all the way up to E range. This isolation switch, this has actually been cut into the control box here for the auto steer. So I think because we have it pushed down, when we push it down, easy pilot fault, there we go, communication error. So if I then get it pushed up again, it should then, yeah, it's supposed to be in the up position like that. So now, in theory, I should be able to power the system off and turn it back on again.
Okay, so powering off and powering back on again, stationary. Look to have kind of done something. Whether it did anything good or not, we do not know. Because despite powering it off and powering it back on again and letting it sit for a couple minutes, I still couldn't get the GPS to detect satellites or anything like that. So yeah, it was all for naught, unfortunately. And to make matters worse, to pile on to an already bad situation with the
There we
auto
go,
steer.
R&D
There is a
600
dongle that
connected.
plugs in like a USB stick at the back of these auto steer screens that basically
So
acts
now-
like has an external storage drive that has all your data imports for your implements. Dad had it there for the sprayer,
Quarter boundary.
and I didn't take any dongle of the sort out of this when I went to work that day, so I'm pretty sure the dongle's still in there, and the screen won't power on. So we have no idea if I may have accidentally wrecked the data for the sprayer or not. Yeah, I stuffed up.
Right, I've given up on the auto steer. It doesn't seem to want to turn on at all now, which is slightly concerning. Yeah, it just couldn't pick up the satellite. I don't know what's going on with it. I'll probably get people in the comments going, should have gotten the John Deere on that one though, but no, we're not going Green Star. We're sticking with Trimble because we kind of have to. We can't afford any other GPS at the moment. We'll give the tractor a break for a bit. Before we get going with seeding, we need to make sure that everything wiring and fuse box wires on that tractor is sorted, because, well, she's getting a bit old, the 7810. She's going to be 30 years old next year. Can you believe it? Time flies. Anyway, good morning and welcome to Thursday. Today we're going to be doing some rolling. Now, before we get into the tractor cab, I do just want to give a quick mention and do a brief snippet of footage that I filmed the other day. This is technically day 2 of trying to use the roller. Day 1 was, it did not go well. I tried to set up the auto steer for it, the FM-750 Trimble. It did not want to work. As a matter of fact, it died on me. So I'm not sure if there's some kind of power issue with the screen, whether the memory filled up and it just shut the tin on itself or whatnot or whatever. It's not really a big drama trying to get the auto steer to work. I was just trying to fire up the auto steer for the sake of reference footage for use in the future, and also trying to teach myself how to use it, because this tractor, as you know, it needs the auto steer to function properly with the combine and the sprayer. All right, tractor, let's see if you want to start today. And the dashboard is not wanting to work. Here we go. Yeah, takes a good knock from the door to get it going. Auto steer, do you want to work today? No, nothing from the auto steer. I think it self-disconnected itself. That's a problem. Right, so last time I was running the roller behind me. We were running in C1 and C2. That pushed the tractor up to 8 kilometers an hour. You can see up on this fancy screen over here. Gently off the clutch and off we go. So rocks like that you can see out in the open. Take to the roller back there. See what kind of a job it does crushing them. I want to try, if possible, to see if this roller will actually go and partially fill in the plough furrows, because at this stage we don't know if we're going to be putting these paddocks back into oats for a hay crop again this year or not, but mainly we just want to go and flatten all the rough bits, ideally. I know it's not exactly good because this is oat stubble. It'll be sheep feed, alright sheep feed for when we have the rams coming home, because we don't have a lot of it left from the fire and whatnot, but we just need to try and get it all leveled. So that way, whether we go back through with the combine and the sprayer, we'll actually have a bit of a better time in here. We've got Bindi Sue behaving herself, being a lovely tractor dog. She's focused on the ground in front of us, not necessarily being on camera. She's being a good girl today and not going underneath the auto steer. That's what we like to see. I have no idea what kind of a job that's doing. We could turn around and go back and have a look. It's just I don't want to do it too many times, otherwise it will expose the topsoil. Even though this is the unburnt part of the farm, we do want to be careful on where exactly we drive, because if we drive over a certain section too much, then it just exposes the sand and then we'll be at risk of wind erosion. Because at this stage, our total rain count for this year is 7 mils. Yep, that's all we got. We had Cyclone Michelle a couple of weeks ago. The weatherman said that they were supposed to guarantee us 95% chance of 30 to 50 mils of rain. Yeah, nah, we missed that. Only 7 mil. I'm not sure. Every man and his dog on the weather forecasters are saying it's going to be a dry one, yet we have been having some high dew point mornings here. But I mean, the locals seem to say that we've got high dew point mornings, and the red gums are in bloom for the best kind of bloom that we've seen for a couple of years now. They weren't blooming like this last year, not in 24 or 23. So, yeah, we'll see. The weather forecasters might be wrong. We might be in for a good year. We might be in for a shocker. All we have to do is just keep working with what we've got and watch this space. That's all we can really do. For like what the goal is with general organisation and stuff on the farm, seed and fertiliser and stuff, that's still in the works of being organised. We're still getting quotes and whatnot for fertiliser costs. Now, President El Nacho has launched Operation Fury in the Middle East, and that could stuff us around big time with our input costs this year, because, well, fuel costs gonna go up. Australia has only got a month's worth of fuel supply before we need to get more shipped in. That's not good. Not happy, Jan. That's all I can say about that. Fertiliser costs, urea. We don't make our own urea in Australia. We used to at one point. We don't anymore. I don't think we have for the best part of 40 years. So fertiliser prices are gonna go stupid. Like they were forecasting for the synthetic shit, 1,100 bucks a ton, and that's last year's prices. So we're not going to buy tons and tons and tons of granular fertilizer, because one, we don't have the storage, two, it's stupidly expensive, and three, we're just going to have to go what we were trying to do last year and make the most efficient use of fertiliser with mixing some other shit in and just cutting back on the actual synthetic fertiliser rate to make the most efficient use out of it, if that makes sense. And of course, like machinery costs, yeah, well, we're not planning to buy any new machines this year. As nice as it would be to get like a fancy Flash 8R tractor or a 9RX 830 like we saw at Darren last year, we don't need big tractors. Okay, we do need a bigger tractor. We do need a big 300 horsepower draft horse to pull a plough plough if we get that far. But like, look, they're perfectly capable with the 7810 at the moment. We could do with another front wheel assist, and we could do with an older 4-wheel drive. That's what we are trying to aim for. But right now, with the way funds are, we're trying to scrape through as best we can without getting an overdraft. Because at the end of the day, our mission is to try and run the farm breaking even without an overdraft from the bank. Because let's face it, the banks do not want to touch sheep farmers, especially not in WA. Not with the chaos that is the sheep industry at the moment. Now, I'm pretty sure most of my Western Australian viewers will be in the know with this, but for those who are unaware, the phase-out grants. Now, I spoke briefly about this last year. For those who are not in the know and have been living under a rock or aren't in the know with Australian politics or Australian sheep politics, the phase out of the live sheep exports by sea by May 1st, 2028. Now, ban did go through and they announced the phase out grants last year. At the end of last year, the first applications, which takes up to 10 to 12 hours to do. 260 producers in the entire sheep industry signed up for them. I was not one of them, because, well, we were chock-a-block right in the middle of the busy season, getting ready for harvest, and with the way the government's plan worked, they worded it as, we want to do it almost like a loan scheme. You've got to have the same amount of money we want to give you, and you've got to match it. And it sounded like a rat's nest type of thing, like, okay, do you want us to pay you back in an unscheduled date in the future and leave us in the lurch? It sounded fishy, it sounded suspicious. We weren't gonna get sucked into it, and lo and behold, well, the results of that were shocking. The phase-out grants, they promised, 260 people signed up, only 45 got the grants, and most of that money went to the abattoirs. Now again, I need to be careful with my words here because I don't want to piss off our market. But in a nutshell, since the phase-out grant, we've already seen one big abattoir, Beaufort River I think it's called. They have temporarily ceased production at their Beaufort River plant. They were also one of the abattoirs that stuffed sheep producers over in our time of need in the drought of 2023. They were one of the ones that wanted to scam the farmers, giving us a ridiculously low amount of dollars per head for our sheep. Believe it or not, Fletcher's, who we actually sent our sheep to, they were one of the good ones, giving us about 27 bucks a head for the old white Norwich tag ewes that we sent off that year. That was good prices compared to what the other abattoirs wanted. 5 bucks a head, does that ring bells? Are we paying attention in the back? It's just a big rort. We knew this was going to happen, that's the reason why we didn't sign up to it, but I do feel sorry for the poor buggers, my fellow sheep farming colleagues in this industry who did go through the paperwork, who had to speak to their bank managers to get the funds to stump up the cash to meet the threshold for the stupid thing that it's like the lottery, you're not guaranteed to win. So yeah, nah, it's a big rort. We need to do better. We need to expect better from this government because they're only counting sheep numbers. They're not counting the amount of farmers, they're not counting the amount of working dogs, shearers, rouseabouts, farm hands, stockies, truckies, and all the workers that our industry supports in the local communities. That's what this is about at the end of the day. We just want to keep the sheep. We want to keep our sheep industry. And unfortunately, because of how up it is in the head, since the 1990s with the closure of Rob's Jetty and all the other abattoirs onshore that we used to have, because it became too expensive for them, were places like Rob's Jetty up to spec, up to snuff, and able to run a profit. We wouldn't need live export, simple as. And well, now it's staring down the fact that because so many people have left the sheep industry in Western Australia, sheep numbers have gone down. And I mean dropped 4 million in the space of 2 years. They were forecasting, like, it dropped from 12.8 to 8.2, I do believe. somewhere around those figures. And that's not just merinos, that's sheep entirely. And so one has to wonder, why? Why go and trade people's livelihoods all for the sake of votes? It's because there's a bigger agenda here. That's all I'll say about that. It's a bigger agenda at hand to try and force people off the land. So yeah, they expected sheep producers, including the truckies and everyone else in the sheep industry, who, need I remind you, 99% of sheep producers in WA are also croppers. They expected us to sign up to this thing like buying a lotto ticket in the middle of bloody harvest when we were having another bumper yield. Well, the reason why yields were so high last year, and the reason why CBH bins from here right up to Northampton were chock-a-block. Yeah, sure, the yields were fantastic because we were blessed with rain at the right time, at the right conditions. Except for our joint, but that's beside the point. Yeah, sure, conditions were great for cropping, but the reason why the bumper harvest happened and the reason why they suddenly had to build all these emergency bulkheads is because of the lack of sheep. Because of the lack of sheep, more people go into cropping. And obviously, because more cropping going in, there's more demand for the commodities like your fertiliser, for your seed. So the prices are going to go up. Input costs for the croppers that are already sold cropping, they're already going up. So all it takes is one bad year, and I mean one seriously bad year, like a 2023, where all it takes is another 2023 and a lot of people will go under. That's the scary reality that we're facing here, and I don't want that to happen. I want my fellow producers to thrive just as much as I want this joint to thrive. But we've got to face facts here. We can't have too much cropping. There needs to be some livestock in the mix for the sake of the land, for the sake of the economy, and for the sake of our communities. In other news, yes, I know some media outlets are saying that the price of lamb meat is starting to take a tumble dress-wise in WA, and that's probably due to the fact the abattoirs are closing because of the lack of sheep. They can't find the amount of sheep to fill their abattoirs to keep the processes operating. The numbers don't lie. Well, now the packaged lamb market is taking a hit because of El Macho and his Operation Epic Fury. Enough about that. I'll stop rattling on about Mr. Trump, but it's not looking good for the lamb meat market in WA at the moment. It's a grim situation, but the prices are still holding up in the sale yards for now. Wool-wise, wool prices are actually going up for the first time in a while, meaning that running fucking merinos may actually be worth it. It may actually help us get across the line. But like I said, like I've been rattling on for the past 6 months, we need to focus on building up our pasture. Because at the end of the day, to grow sheep, you need the feed to produce. And to get the feed to produce, we need the fertiliser to feed the pasture. Factor number one with getting our fertiliser, we need to make sure we do some soil samples. I want to do that this year so we can find out what exactly the soil needs instead of just assuming it needs everything. I mean, yeah, it does need everything, Dad, but how much? That's what we need to find out. So yeah, we've been trying to get onto our agronomist to try and get him to come out here to do some soil samples for us. He said he'll look into it, and that was that. Hasn't called back yet. We're gonna need to get onto him because right now we're at the very start of March, at the start of the growing season, meaning that every man and his dog is trying to secure fertiliser and seed for their cropping programs this year, right now. We are no exception. We need to do the same because despite Dad's hesitantness on saying, oh, I don't think we'll be ready to go for seeding by Anzac Day, which is April. We need to be ready to go for seeding by April. We don't have to have the combine in the ground going in April. That's too early. We're actually aiming for the second week of May. But I want to make sure we can secure our seed, our fertiliser, and all the parts we need for the combine, and potentially something to replace that thing, but we'll work it out. Because, like I said last year, can the tractor run the roller and the scarifier and the combine and all the other pieces of machinery without auto steer? Can we freehand it? Yes. The exception to that rule is the sprayer, which I can now say we've finally, after 5 years, the sprayer is officially paid off. Yay! Now we can sell it. No, we're not selling it, because we finally just finished paying for the thing. We can't go any smaller because that sprayer's got bifold. If we go any smaller, we can't have bifold on the thing, and then we can't fit between the trees. That's what the Hardy's got to be for. We want to get the Hardy going and put a boomless nozzle on it so that we can actually fit between the trees with it and use the Gold Acres for the big stuff. Maybe even go contract spraying later down the road if we need to. But no, in all seriousness, we do need to do something about that auto steer screen, because look, aesthetically, I love the FM-750. I think it's a beautiful looking screen. They did a really good job aesthetically designing it. But functionally, it's a piece of shit. We can't figure out how to navigate it ever since we got it. And this screen has been fixed the past 3 years. We've used it every single year. We've had to send the thing off to get fixed, and enough is enough. It's too expensive to keep fixing it every year. We need something different. Right, I think we got most of our rocks now. I'm just gonna go back through and flatten any ones that I've missed or that are still poking on the surface. And then we'll run the tractor back out the other corner. I want to leave some of the stubble in the middle there for the sheep, just so we have something for them so that it's not all flattened. But yeah, this is the stuff that I was doing last time. Drop it down a gear. Yeah, that's crushing it nicely. It's hard to tell with this roller whether I'm going too fast by going 8k an hour or if I'm going too slow doing 7. All that matters to me is if this bloody thing's doing its job. On the sand it just pushes it down, but on the gravel it actually breaks it up. You can see that crumpled rock there. Right, put it down to idle. Let's go behind the roller and see what kind of job it's actually done. Yeah, that's pushed down. Yeah, look at that. It's crushed it up. So these gravel rocks, this is what we call a gravel pan. On the surface, it breaks all the smaller rocks up and it just pushes the bigger one down into the dirt. When the combine comes back through, it'll no doubt dig these rocks back up, because it always does. But the whole idea of a rock roller like that is to break up the gravel rocks on the surface and push the heavier rocks back into the soil so that it's smooth, so that we don't have bloody rocks and all sorts all over the joint. Oh, are you driving us home, Mindy? Are you gonna finish rolling for me? Mindy, have you got any comments?
Oh, yes, I love the tractor ride. Oh, I was so lazy last night. He didn't take me anywhere.
That was true, because I was staying inside because it's hot. Yeah, so it may be small, but the roller's actually been doing its job. I would say we'd take it out the west end to see what it would do out there, but I don't want to take it over that sand again. No. We nearly got bogged coming home with this from boggy ute paddock, even with the loader pushing from behind. So I'm not taking it back out the west end again. It's staying here. But yeah, I still don't know the brand of this roller. It looks to be some kind of green thing, so if anyone could identify the roller for us, that would be fantastic. But yeah, it's actually been quite good. I'm pretty happy with that. Righto, I think we'll go park the tractor up and go see what we need to do elsewhere for today. Current weather forecast calls for it's bloody hot. We're dying out here. That's what the temperatures are looking like. No rain for the foreseeable future. Current rain watch for February is only 7 mils. That's it. March, we haven't had any rain at all. And I think the rain is going to be few and far between until April. They're forecasting April we could see a traditional break to the season, but there's a fine line between traditional break to the season for what we used to know with Dad's 50 years of experience up at Canna versus a traditional break to the season down here. We'll wait and see how we go. We might end up with another 2025 rainfall wise, or we could end up with a 2017 where it's bump rain and we'd need to go shearing just to get money, but then, well, we can't because the sheep industry's on the brink. Gator test. Let's go do a lap around here and see how smooth the rollers made things. It's a lot better than it was. I'll give it that. Still a bit bumpy because of the stubble. These pig troughs, the stuff that we've rolled, that's a lot better. That is heaps better than what it was. They're still noticeable, and we still need to level the combine out with the frame so that we can actually have it going in level and not too deep. Yeah, it's looking good. We've left enough stubble and a bit of kangaroo feed for the sheep. I do believe that's going to be it for now. If I have anything else for this week, you'll see it now. If not, thanks for watching. Like or Bindi Sue will break your auto steer and force you to buy a new one. And they're not cheap. I think they're like 16 grand. Yeah, I wish we had another reject clock to turn off for that price, but ah well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.